The Owl House aired its mid-season finale over the weekend, and one of the greatest curveballs we received was an apparent reveal that Philip Whittibane did have a brother. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, and today I thought we'd discuss everything we know about Belos, Philip Whittibane, his supposed brother, and Hunter, and the many theories that connect their lives. To start, Belos is of course the Emperor of the Boiling Isles, but one who is falling apart for magical reasons he blames on savage magic. Then of course there is the Golden Guard, Hunter. Belos has referred to Hunter as his nephew, and Hunter has referred to Belos as his uncle, but a lot of the backstory we get for each of them seems to contradict this. First and foremost, Hunter claims to Luce that the Emperor simply found him as a child after his parents had presumably died. In other scenes, Belos blames their deaths on savage magic, but it doesn't really explain why Belos was considered such a stranger up until that point to Hunter. To make things even stranger, we recently learned that Hunter is likely something called a grimwalker. When Belos is experimenting with the door to the human realm, he leaves open a book that talks about how to make a grimwalker, which seems to be something of an artificial life form made up from palisman wood as well as other magical ingredients, including parts of living creatures. Earlier this season, the Golden Guard was sent on a mysterious mission to kill the Selkidonis, and we weren't really sure why, but apparently their scales are one of the ingredients to making a grimwalker. It would seem that Belos wanted to make sure that other grimwalkers could not be created, which is odd considering he seems to be the only one that needs them. When compared side by side, Belos and Hunter look somewhat similar, which led fans to speculate that a grimwalker doesn't simply create a random artificial being, but that it can be used to essentially make clones, or even bring someone back from the dead, hence the name Grimwalker. In Season 1, we had a body swap episode that showed pretty much anyone can be body swapped, whether they're human, demon, or witch. When they swap bodies, they don't just bring their voices with them in typical cartoon fashion, but their eyes as well. While this was presumed to simply be a visual indicator for storytelling purposes, the introduction of Grimwalkers hint that the eye color in body swaps may be an important part of the overarching story. Grimwalkers, as we see in the book, tend to be born with pink eyes, making Belos' blue eyes one of the few differences between Hunter and Belos. This led fans to speculate that Belos created Hunter as a clone of himself, and intends to use a body-swapping spell to take over his body on the Day of Unity, allowing him a second chance at a life as a young witch in this new merged world, and leaving Hunter to presumably die in Belos' old man body. The introduction of Philip Whittibane further confused fans. It seems obvious to many that Philip Whittibane is still alive in some way, quite likely as Emperor Belos himself. Hunter seems to lack the ability to do magic because he is a grimwalker, and thus has to rely on a technologically enhanced staff to do his spells. While we see Belos doing some spells without his staff, we don't see him drawing circles the way that other witches do, indicating that he too might not be able to do magic in the natural way that demons and witches of the Boiling Isles are able to. With that in mind, as well as how Belos seems to be falling apart due to being partially made of plants, many fans speculated that Belos himself was already a Grimwalker, a clone of the original Philip Whittibane, and that over the last 400 years, Belos has been growing new Grimwalkers to an appropriate age, and then body swaps them in order to continue living until he can get to the human world. This would explain how he is a Grimwalker, but also why he has blue eyes instead of pink, as he's been bringing the original Philip Whittibane blue eyes with him every time he body swaps. The final twist in the story came from last week's episode, where the Owl House crew made it absolutely obvious that Philip was not the only human on his journey in the Boiling Isles, but was one of two brothers lured into the demon realm by a witch back in the 1600s, in the same town that Luce now lives in. We see these two brothers depicted both in statue form and in a book, and in both cases, the one who appears to be Philip Whittibane seems to have the exact same design, or at the very least very similar designs, whereas the other brother seems to change from drawing to statue. This led people right back to the original explanation that Belos really did have a brother, and that Hunter is in some way related to that brother, whether Hunter is that brother's son, his grimwalking clone, or perhaps even a grimwalking clone of that brother's son. What this could mean for the future of the show is a bit complex, as it could simply mean that Belos really wanted his brother back in some way, shape, or form, or perhaps that he does intend to infuse Hunter's body with the spirit of his brother. This really could be good, or or it could be really bad. To me, the most interesting thing about this recent episode was the inclusion of this picture, as on the shoulder of one of the brothers, we see what looks like Hunter's palisman, the tiny red bird. In the photo, we are interacting with a classic depiction of a witch, one that had its ears conveniently not drawn, so we can't really say who or what this really is. This palisman is one of the many we've seen throughout this series that were abandoned by their previous owners. Interestingly, the shoulder he seems to be sitting on is that of Philip Whittibane's based on the hair, though this drawing seems to have continuity errors with the statues as we mentioned before, so it's hard to say with 100% certainty what is actually going on here. Regardless, we can say that this palisman seemingly belonged to either Belos or his brother at some point and was later abandoned. I like to think that Belos spared this palisman because it was either a close companion of his or his brother's, and he didn't feel right trying to break it open and eat what is left of its magical essence so he could continue living. This would explain why the little red bird is so taken with Hunter, why he immediately felt safe and like Hunter was going to be the witch he followed next. This palisman has some special connection to Hunter's family, and even if the palisman doesn't know it himself, he likely saw Hunter and was simply reminded about whoever his previous owner was because of the way he looked. Whether or not that was Philip or his brother, it's hard to say, but it's interesting to see how Hunter's story was introduced to us so recently, and how even episodes without him seem to expand upon his story. Those are all of the theories I've heard or came up with about Hunter and his possible connections to Belos and Philip Whittibane. But before you guys go, I just want to remind you all that we are going to be hosting a live stream Q&A with the cast of the Owl House right here on Cartoon Universe. Right now we have Sarah Nicole Robles, the voice of Luz Nacida, and we have Sissy Jones, the voice of Lilith Clawthorne, and possibly Mila Lee as Kiki Mora. We also may be joined by some of the Owl House crew. I can't quite say who yet, but you never know who will show up even on the day of. We'll be asking them questions live right here on Cartoon Universe on August 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you aren't sure what time that is in your time zone, I'm including a time zone converter link in the description down below. Click it to find out what time to be here in your time zone so you don't miss it. The best part is the cast will be signing autograph prints all weekend long, so you can purchase a picture of Luz, Lilith, or Kiki Mora with a signature from your favorite cast member. Lilith and Luz are already available for sale at the Streamily shop, which I will include in a pinned comment down below, as well as in the description. Go check it out, and you can get autographed art of your favorite character and their voice actress. If you can't make it to the event while it's happening, don't worry, the livestream will be available here on the channel as a regular YouTube channel when it's finished. Don't forget to leave us any questions that you have for the cast and crew of the Owl House down below so we can ask them during the live stream. Stay away from questions asking for spoilers, please. That's all I have for you guys today, but don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss this event, and I'll see you guys there.